All right, look, I mean, well, first of all, unfortunately, things like we saw yesterday in Manchester are becoming, I don't know if they're more common, but we're seeing them, we're seeing these types of things, a lot. Somebody in your line of work, when you see, something like that happen, I mean, that's just got to kind of give you a start. I mean, what kind of goes, as soon as you see something like that, I mean, what's the first thing you start thinking about?
First thing you start thinking about, what measures are we taking? Are we making the proper steps or taking the proper steps in the proper direction for the safety and security of our citizens and those who are attending those events throughout the city? So yes, I do go back and assess or reassess our plans and firm up our plans if so. But other than that, we are.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, look, as you're doing those assessments, I'm not looking for you to give away any secrets or anything like that, but as you're reviewing those plans, I mean, is it a feeling of confidence? I mean, are we in a good spot?
Yes, we are, because we constantly speak with our partners, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and GEMA, as a matter of fact. So we're constantly speaking with them, and we're constantly getting those feeds and updates that help assure us that we are able to provide security when necessary.
We talked to an analyst, I don't know if you know him. Do you know Robbie Friedman over at Georgia State with the International Law Enforcement Exchange? I know he does a lot of work with...
No, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good guy. I mean, he lives in that counterterrorism world. And, his observations, are that, our local law enforcement, federal, state, and local, but our efforts here locally, he holds them in pretty high regard. Mm-hmm. You've got, maybe second only to New York. I mean, he said he'd put this group, plans up against anybody. I mean, what is it you think that has, Metro Atlanta just working together,
Once again,
so far ahead?
The partnership that we have with the feds, the federal agencies, the state agencies, and that we also work well with the citizens, that we communicate with them and have them participate in the See Something, Say Something campaign, that we constantly give our officers the information that they needed so that they can be vigilant at all times and remain vigilant at all times.
It's interesting. He says, that sort of I'm trying to remember the phrase he used. I guess he basically says sort of like the working assumption has changed, right? That it was for a very long time. It's like, well, we have no credible threat that something's going to happen, so the odds aren't real great. But you can't. He's saying that you can't operate that way anymore. Is that true, sort of, from your perspective? That just because we don't have any sort of credible threat or direct threat that something is imminent, you kind of have to be,
right. So you have to take the necessary precautions, right? So you have to consider soft targets versus the hard targets, so that you make plans for things that you just can't see. So yeah, we do take the approach that from that perspective. And you're right, it is changed. The game has changed every time that we have a terrorist attack, where the vehicle is used to assault people, and then they get out of the vehicle and use edged weapons or firearms. So those are the things that constantly run through our minds. So we try and make all the preparation as possible to prevent those things or minimize them if they should occur.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you to comment, directly on the steps up to the, taken in Manchester, but you start reading some of what's on social media, some of the reports from over there. Some of the witnesses were reporting sort of not haphazard security, but like, some folks got checked, some folks didn't. They were questioning, I guess the strength of the security there, what they were doing. I mean, as you start reviewing some of that intel that comes in, I mean, are there takeaways, or will you look for lessons learned from that and apply those here?
Absolutely. Each occasion where something has gone wrong, that we look for the shortfalls. We look for those things that may have contributed or lend to the incident taking place. So yes, absolutely, we do learn from that.
Last couple of questions here. One, we operate, there's sort of that, what's the old saying, we got to be right 100% of the time, the bad guys only have to be right once, right? Mm-hmm. Right? That's tough odds. I mean, you're playing with some really difficult odds. I mean, is that stressful?
It is. I couldn't sit here and tell you it isn't, because when we have these large-scale events, it's important that the citizens or those people who are participating are safe, that they have an enjoyable time here in our city. That's most important to the city of Atlanta and the City of Atlanta Police Department.
We had our one sort of brush with that back 20 years ago. A lot's changed since the Centennial Park
Mm-hmm.
incident. But we've got a lot of high-profile events. We've got the new dome opening up. We've got championship games and Super Bowls, and as you're looking forward to that, I mean, what is it that sort of keeps you up nights as you're thinking about what's some of the events that we have in addition to the ones we already have?
Right, those things that happen in Manchester, those things that happen throughout the country, where we're planning for the hard location, but we're never thinking about the soft attacks. So, and that's one of the biggest things right now, are soft attacks. So, those things that we're vulnerable at.
Yeah, I mean, because you can lock down, with the clear plastic bags, who goes in the building, different things like that. But when, this seemed to happen like, he was waiting for everybody to come out, in a plaza, close to transit. I mean, every big city's got, we've got the equivalent of that here. I mean, is that something going into this that you're going to be looking?
Yes, absolutely. We have to take all those measures and all those things into place in consideration for the future, because as you stated, we do have a lot of upscale or large-scale events coming to the city of Atlanta in the near future. So things like MARTA stations, pedestrian ways, gathering locations, all those locations where people are going to be collected and on a large scale. So yes, we have to look at that. We have to think about it.
Well, last question. I mean, what do you tell the public anytime something like this happens? People have, naturally just sort of get uneasy, going into big events or big crowds or different things like that. We all talk about remaining vigilant and we won't let it control how we live our lives and things like that. But realistically, when you're dealing with human nature, I mean, what do you say to the people of Metro Atlanta who are coming in town for some of these big events?
Well, we tell the citizens that if it doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't right. So go ahead and notify the nearest police officer. Use the Say Something, See Something, Say Something campaign, and let us know, because your instincts are very, very important, and that we trust your instincts. So make the call, let us investigate, and even if it's nothing, it's not a waste of time.
Just sort of on a personal note, I mean, when you just, see something like that happening with some attack on, really kids, going to a concert. I mean, I don't know if you're a parent or whatever, but just as a police officer and just as you're seeing something like that happen, sort of the emotions that come with that for you.
Yes, like I say, my heart goes out to the families there in Manchester, and the law enforcement, our law enforcement partners who are there investigating that. That is a traumatic experience to look at those. It's a traumatic experience to look at bodies all over the place, body parts that may be scattered about. So yes, it weighs heavily on the heart to see innocent people, not necessarily guilty people, but kids who haven't had an opportunity to live their lives, lose their lives so early in life.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.